The second season of Tales of the TMNT explored each turtle, not by separating them, but by isolating them emotionally, pushing them into one of their core personality traits and exploring it as both a weakness and a strength. Raphael's personality trait was his anger and his fascination with violence, something that put him at odds with others, because violence wasn't supposed to be fun. But what if Raphael could actually do violence for fun? Join me today as I explore the Mutant Battle Arena story. In typical Tales of the TMNT fashion, this story was told to a dangerous criminal at the police station, as Raphael tried to explain how they all ended up in custody. It all started when Raphael convinced Leo to train with him. No one on the school wrestling team wanted to fight with him, and because he was ahead in martial arts, they wouldn't let him join MMA. Meanwhile, Michelangelo and Donatello were having fun watching Raph mop the floor with Leo. Donnie pointed out that Raph was always looking to fight someone because of his anger issues. This session got cut short after Raph threw Leo into a wall. Back at the lair, Pigeon Pete felt the need to talk to him about the double-edged sword of violence. Nothing infuriated Raph more than being made to feel bad about his need to fight others, which led to a fight with Pete. Needing to blow off some steam, Raph went back to the gym to practice with his new trainer, Spuds. Spuds told him how he grew up on the streets and had to fight every day to survive. But he also told him that he got through it with the help of people who understood him and made him realize he had value. From his point of view, Raph's talent was beating people up. This made Raphael happy, because he finally had someone who understood him. When he returned to the lair, he found his brothers watching videos on social media of Bebop and Rocksteady fighting each other and wreaking havoc on the streets. Worried, the turtles set out to find them. To Raph, there was no way this wasn't ending in a fight, and he was more than ready to dive right into it. His brothers tried to keep things calm, but the moment they ran into Rock and B, it was clear that talking wasn't on the table. Raph took it as the sign he'd been waiting for and jumped straight into the fight. The clash ended with a construction site in ruins, and in the chaos, the two mutants slipped away once again. His brothers were really annoyed at him and his obsession with fighting others. Raph disagreed with their take that fighting wasn't fun. From his point of view, the only reason they didn't like it was that they were bad at it. This was enough for his brothers to stop talking to him for the rest of the night. Raph went back to the only person who understood him, Spuds. But this guy was actually a purple dragon and had an ulterior agenda. He advised him to follow his true nature and join an underground battle arena. There, Raph found out that Rock, B, and Mondo were already fighting in it. But what he didn't know was that they were being mind-controlled through a disc on the back of their necks. Surprises didn't end there. Raph was surprised to see Angel and Hun there. That was when he realized that this whole thing was a Purple Dragon's operation. Angel convinced him that the dragons went legit by running a wholesome underground fighting arena that the police could never know about. Regular people came paying to fight mutants every night. Raphael wasn't sure if he could trust Kitsune. After all, she tried to sell him and cut off his finger in the past. But once he found out that he was going to get paid for fighting others, he stopped thinking rationally about it. Kitsune was actually trying to sell the arena and its fighters to a tech bro known as Nox, who was interested in streaming the Mutant Battle Arena. However, Kitsune's roster felt incomplete without the Turtles, the heroes of New York. When Raph joined the fight, Nox saw that this could be a good investment, but only if she could get all 4 turtles to fight in it. This experience finally released all the repressed anger inside Raphael. As a result, he ended up in a very calm, balanced mood, becoming unrecognizable to his brothers. Since he couldn't talk about the secret arena, he attributed his personality change to therapy. Of all the dragons, Raphael felt like the one who could really understand him was Hun. However, Hun didn't like fighting. He would do it to protect other dragons, but to him, violence wasn't fun. To make things worse, fighting mutants felt too much like fighting animals, and he was against animal cruelty. Seeing how she needed to attract all the turtles to the arena, Kitsune started giving expensive, hard-to-miss gifts to Raphael, including a truck he named the Turtle Tank. All of this seemed suspicious to his brothers, who didn't buy his story about going to therapy. They tried following him, but Mikey got caught almost immediately. Trying to cover his secret and angry at his family, Raphael got in the Turtle Tank to lose them. But Leo managed to track him to the underground arena, where he learned the Purple Dragons were running the whole operation. When Raph returned home, he stepped into his own intervention. An attempt that was cut short when Pete revealed his brothers had been spying on him for a while. Pete tried to reason with Raphael by telling him that fighting was the last resort of the weak-minded. But Raph didn't take it lightly, and after telling them he didn't need them, he abandoned the lair. Having set all the pieces in motion, Kitsune told Raph that he was always welcome there. The dragons were his true home, where he could be himself, using his rage for good. Of course, this was a manipulation attempt from her, because he would immediately have to face his own brothers in the arena. The other turtles had infiltrated the facility, but got caught, ending up under Kitsune's control. Raph was in shock. Kitsune then told him that she was only giving him what he wanted, to be able to fight with his brothers for fun. Nox was really impressed to see all 4 turtles, but he needed to know how it was possible. Kitsune explained that the technology they acquired that seemed to belong to Bishop allowed them to control them through brainwaves specific to mutants. All they needed to do was affix a control disc on them, and they'd become their slaves, all powered by a transmitter in a briefcase. Whoever bought the mutants would also get the controller. Raph couldn't see the fun in fighting his brothers anymore, so he devised an escape plan. Kitsune sent all the mutants after him, including Leatherhead. It was during this escape that he found the discs, and as he was leaving the building, he was intercepted by Hun, who told him to talk to his trainer, something that went completely over Raph's head. Escaping on his turtle tank, he found out that now even Splinter was under Kitsune's control. After losing them, he decided to go talk with Pete. He finally admitted that his love of fighting and glorification of violence ruined everything and put his entire family in danger. Listening to him, Pete realized that Hun may have given Raph a clue with his trainer remark. After a short intimidation tactic and after admitting that he was a dragon, Spuds revealed that the key to freeing all the mutants was in the briefcase. Not only that, but they should also do it as soon as possible, because those controllers would end up melting their brains. This was why Kitsune was trying to sell them fast. Knowing all this, Raph and Pete came up with a plan to create a distraction long enough for Pete to retrieve the controller. The only way to do this was to make Raph return to fight in the arena. But the plan failed, and Raph had to improvise to help Pete. Feeling sorry for the giant pigeon, Hun pretended to be fighting him so that he could escape with the briefcase. Raph and Pete didn't have many chances of winning against all the mutants at once, and they didn't have enough time to figure out how to turn off the discs. Desperate, Raphael destroyed the controller, which effectively freed all the mutants. When asked what happened, Raphael said he had to fight everyone, and that he won. But he also admitted that he didn't want to fight them ever again. With this tale reaching its end, the criminal was confused. If everything ended well, how did they end up in police custody? It turned out Splinter found out they ditched school, so he called the police, the fire department, the FBI, and for whatever reason, the IRS. This 3-parter was written by Christopher Yost, Matthew Bass, and Ellie Guzman. To make things a little simpler, all the mutanimals except Scumbug moved out of the lair into their own apartments. However, the story still required the mutanimals to appear, and not all actors were available or affordable. One trick the team used this time was to make the characters silent while under mind control. Having said that, at least Bebop was voiced by Seth Rogen, even if he only had one line. The excuse that Splinter only spoke vermin was kept this season due to Jackie Chan's absence. There were also some interesting character moments in this story, like Raphael being a terrible driver, and Mikey wearing a gladiator costume that looked a little too much like the last Ronin. While watching this story, and the fight against Rock and Bee in particular, I couldn't help but think of Mutants Unleashed, which also pitted mutants against mutants, and the Turtles against the mind-controlled Mutanimals. Given that there isn't that much material from this universe so far, I'm a little surprised to see this level of repetition. In any case, the story explored how anger was both Raph's weakness and strength, and that of all the Turtles, he was the only one who found violence fun. This season explored other passions that bored the other Turtles in each story, and I'll be exploring them in future videos. What did you think of this story? Is your weakness also your strength? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.